Melbourne primary school children are being taught to scold their parents for not doing enough in the fight against climate change. Idling car engines at school pickups are contributing to global emissions. And who better to tackle this existential crisis than 9-year-olds who can barely spell emissions but know exactly how to ruin a parent's day with a climate lecture. Researchers from Deakin University spent 2 days teaching kids about the evils of idling cars at the school gate and providing them with talking points so they can have the chat with mum and dad. Now, we've not seen the talking points, but we imagine kids were taught to greet mum and dad at the school gate with something like this.
You have stolen my dreams and my childhood with your empty words. People are suffering. People are dying. Entire ecosystems are collapsing. We are in the beginning of a mass extinction. How dare you?
And lo, the researchers noted a 40% drop in idling cars. If my kid came home as Greta Thunberg, I'd be scared too. The researchers say the point was to resource kids who are often anxious about climate change with tools to do something about it and therefore feel empowered and less scared. But they also noted children are very useful in driving behavioural change. So is this a good thing? Or is this just another way kids are being turned into activists while failing NAPLAN, Caleb?
How can they argue that it makes the kids less scared? Because you have to scare the kids into thinking that their parents sitting out the front of the school with their cars idling is terrible and going to kill the planet, so that they then go off and tell them, oh, you can't do that, you're going to leave nothing for me when you leave this world. I mean, for goodness sake, climate anxiety in children is a real thing. It is driven by the curriculum. Climate is integrated into all parts of the curriculum, essentially, and they do the same with Aboriginal affairs. But, you know, even in mathematics and English and whatever, they're instructed as part of the curriculum to work the themes of climate change into it. Great research by the IPA you can find online into this recently. This is just a ploy to scare kids further, not to alleviate any of their concern. And I love the idea that they've finally woken up to the fact, these eco-activists, that idling cars is a bad thing. Because indeed, idling cars chew through fuel unnecessarily and they spew stuff out into the atmosphere needlessly. If only they'd realised that when they were gluing themselves to the road and forcing cars to sit on roads, major roads, idling in our capital cities for hours on end. Think of all the emissions and fuel that were burnt while those, you know, whatever they're called, what were they, Extinction Rebellion people,
yeah, rising tide,
blue rinses were gluing themselves to the road. They've done more to cause idling cars than anyone else.
Look, the part of this that I do like is that they're teaching kids to take action instead of just being victims. So tell your parents to turn off their car instead of just scare them about climate change. But there are so many other causes you could be teaching kids about that take far more lives every year than climate change. We have 50 million people in modern day slavery. 3 million people a year die from household pollution from burning wood and kerosene. 3 million, because they don't have access to cheap, abundant energy like coal that I'm sure these eco-warriors would like to ban as well. So there are a lot of problems in our world. Climate change is a small one in comparison to the massive issues faced by millions of people every single year.
Forgive me for being cynical, but I don't think the researchers here, and I don't know the researchers, but I suspect they're less interested in empowering kids to overcome climate fear than garnering kids as little activists to get in the heads of mums and dads. Because as we showed, and we had a laugh at Greta Thunberg when we watched, but remember when Greta gave that speech and world leaders were like, oh, we've got to do something because a kid has just told us off. Kids do have nag power. Shops know it. Climate activists know it. And I suspect that's the real motivation for this.
And also, how many of these kids are studying? How many of these kids are doing their homework? How many of them are making their beds? Before you try to fix the world out there, fix your own backyard, fix your own bedroom.
Can you talk to my sons, please? They need to hear that.
But you know, they say we're alleviating the fear. They create the fear. So it's like, I'm going to create a problem by telling the kids that the
Yeah.
world is going to end because of climate change. And guess what? I have the solution for your fear, which is to go and tell your parents to not have their cars idling at the front of schools. It is patently ridiculous, and worse than that, it's actually bad for children. It's introducing ideas into children's brains, particularly primary school age kids, that they're just not equipped to deal with. Leave it for later in school.